SpaceX will soon be sending its Starship on its first ever orbital flight. This test will involve the insanely powerful 70 meters tall Super Heavy booster as well, which has never made it above the ground. When it is finally fired up, will it cement its claim to the king of all rockets? Join us as we explore the latest developments of the mighty Super Heavy booster. The Super Heavy is the booster or lower stage of SpaceX's mighty spacecraft, the Starship, which SpaceX founder Elon Musk is hoping to use to dispatch colonizers to Mars after it has helped the National Aeronautics and Space Administration land its astronauts on the moon. One crucial requirement of the Starship is that it has to be able to lift heavy payloads to orbit. This is why SpaceX is going all out on the design of the Super Heavy. It will be the most powerful launch vehicle ever with a gross mass liftoff mass of over 3 million kilograms. When stood up, you would have to step back to see the top of the booster as it is as tall as a 23-story building. It has a 9-meter diameter and it is made of steel, the same material as the 50-meter tall Starship that sits atop it. Previous tests have included only the upper stage. The last one was on May 5th when the SN-15 upper stage prototype launched to an altitude of 10 kilometers before landing safely. But as SpaceX races to get the Starship ready for its first orbital flight, it has now turned to conducting tests on the Super Heavy itself. Support facilities for the orbital launch have started to be built at the Starbase site in Boca Chica. There is a massive launch tower that is able to hold the mega rocket system of both the upper and lower stages. SpaceX has also built several large tanks for storing the liquid oxygen and methane that the spacecraft prototypes will use as propellant. The star of the show, however, are the two Super Heavy prototypes that SpaceX is testing. They are the Booster 3 and Booster 4. Booster 3, which the engineers assembled out there in the open, was rolled out to the launch pad in Boca Chica at the beginning of July. It would be the first full-scale prototype of the booster to undergo actual testing after it has completed cryogenic pressure tests of its fuel tanks. The first ever test of the tall Super Heavy took place on July 19th, when the Booster 3 was fired for the first time in a static fire test. It had 3 Raptor engines attached. Musk tweeted about the test, saying, "Full duration firing of 3 Raptors on a Super Heavy booster." SpaceX's official Twitter account also immortalized the event, tweeting, "First static fire test of the Super Heavy booster," with an accompanying picture of the rockets being fired. As it was a static fire test, the Super Heavy prototype did not clear off the ground. Even if it eventually lifts off the ground in a future test, Musk has said the Booster 3 wouldn't fly to space. The honor will go to the Booster 4. It will be the prototype to launch on its first orbital test flight. However, it is possible to see the Booster 3 in more action, as revealed by Musk when a fan inquired on Twitter. Musk said SpaceX might try a 9-engine firing on Booster 3. But that would depend on the progress made with the Booster 4 that is already under construction. The number of rocket engines pales in comparison with the total number the Super Heavy prototype that is going to space will use, which will employ 32 Raptor engines. It means we can expect a massive upgrade, going from Booster 3 to Booster 4, if Booster 4 is the one to be used for the orbital test flight later in the summer. SpaceX is used to attaching large numbers of engines to its rockets, as its Falcon Heavy uses 27 Merlin engines for liftoff. When the Super Heavy booster finally takes off, it will blast the upper stage into orbit. The booster itself will eject from the upper stage and splash down in the Gulf of Mexico, where it will be recovered. The upper stage, which is now being called Ship 20, will travel almost all the way around the Earth before making a controlled re-entry into the ocean north of Kauai, Hawaii. SpaceX's Super Heavy is already scheduled for work. Apart from NASA lining it up for landing its astronauts on the moon, SpaceX has already collected a deposit from Japanese entrepreneur Yusaku Maezawa to take him on a flight around the moon. According to Musk, if all the testing goes well, the Starship could be ready by 2023, which will be just in time for NASA's Artemis project in 2024. The Super Heavy is super unique. It is going to be the most powerful rocket ever built. To achieve this, SpaceX is developing its Raptor engines. The variant of the Raptor engine that the Super Heavy will use is the Sea Level. Each rocket, when firing, produces an insane 2 meganewton of thrust. SpaceX elected to use a low-flow stage combustion cycle design. It mixes the methane and oxygen before they enter the combustion chamber, making the use of fuel more efficient. For fuel, the Raptor engine will burn a mixture of methane and oxygen that is cooled to a cryogenic level. The very low temperature means the propellant is denser and burns more efficiently. It also means the super heavy tank will also be able to contain more fuel at that temperature. Methane itself is a better fuel than hydrogen or kerosene-based propellants. For instance, methane is far easier to store and handle as it weighs less than kerosene. The Raptor engines will fare better with methane as the burning of the propellant does not produce residue as kerosene does, a process known as coking. Coking makes rockets unfit for reuse, something SpaceX is designing to avoid. At roughly the same size as the Merlin engine, the Raptor engine produces far higher pressure and thrust, giving the booster great power. SpaceX wants the booster to be reusable. That is partially possible with the Falcon 9, which can be reused after recovery and refurbishment. In fact, NASA has given SpaceX the go-ahead to blast its cargo and astronauts to space. Super Heavy, however, will be completely reusable. It will need minimal refurbishment to be used again. SpaceX wants multiple Starship launches in a day at its Starbase facility. After detaching from the upper stage, the booster will return to the launch site for a quick check. SpaceX is experimenting with at least 2 modes of landing. One is the traditional landing on its leg. The other method, according to Musk, is to catch the rocket booster mid-air using an arm that extends from the launch tower. The grid fins, which will be used to control the descent, will also be used to come to rest inside the extending arm. To accomplish this, SpaceX will have to find a way to achieve more precise control of the rocket. But its advantage is that it eliminates the need for legs that could be a potential point of failure during landings. The quick turnaround of the Super Heavy booster is crucial to SpaceX's plan for thousands of launches of the Starship every year. It will cut downtime and the cost of space travel considerably, bringing Musk closer to his dream of taking people to colonize Mars. The reusability of the Super Heavy will also have applications on Earth. Companies or organizations that need to deliver large cargo rapidly can use the Starship. Payloads meant for the Earth's orbit can also be delivered quicker and cheaper. Barring any regulatory or approval hurdle, the Super Heavy will blast the Starship to orbit this summer. SpaceX has identified a launch window during the second half of the year. But before then, SpaceX will continue to test the booster prototypes. Tell us what you think of the insane engineering of the Super Heavy in the comments below.
It's a space race, and not just between countries. 2 of the world's top billionaires have been in a 15-plus year feud with each other. Elon Musk has SpaceX, and Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos runs Blue Origin, and both have been in a race to get people to the edge of space and beyond. But it turns out it's not just these guys trying to get to the Kármán line first, and it looks like another billionaire is about to beat them to it. And where is NASA in all this rocket rivalry? Let's find out. Jeff Bezos is currently the wealthiest person in the world and runs Amazon and aerospace company Blue Origin, which has the goal of sending people to the moon. Elon Musk is the dual CEO running both Tesla and SpaceX. Over the years, a hated rivalry between these two has resulted in some bitter name-calling and Twitter spats. But now Bezos is passing Musk in a major way. Or is he? Jeff Bezos recently made the announcement that he will fly to the edge of space soon on his new Shepard rocket to prove that it's completely safe for space tourists. Elon Musk, on the other hand, has no set plans to go into space as of yet, but expressed interest in joining Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa in his trip around the moon in the new Starship Super Heavy rocket that's scheduled to launch in 2023. Musk has also said he wants to move to Mars and live out his life there. But is Bezos better than Elon? And how did this rivalry between these guys start? By 2004, both Blue Origin and SpaceX were still in their early stages, and neither had completed any launches yet. However, Bezos and Musk had met each other to discuss their reusable rocket ambitions, and let's just say it didn't go well. Musk said that he tried to give Bezos some advice, but Bezos largely ignored Musk. From that time onward, Musk and Bezos kept to themselves. But the rivalry heated up again in 2013 when both companies tried to lease the same launch pad from NASA. SpaceX wanted exclusive use of the NASA launch pad, and Blue Origin filed a formal protest with the government to prevent SpaceX from using the pad. Bezos suggested that it should be converted into a commercial spaceport for all launch companies. Musk called this a phony blocking tactic and took a swipe at Blue Origin, saying the company hasn't created a reliable orbital spacecraft even though they've spent over 10 years to build one. However, Musk said that if Blue Origin somehow designed a vehicle qualified to NASA's human rating standards that can dock with the space station, SpaceX would gladly accommodate their needs. But then Musk said, "Frankly, I think we're more likely to discover unicorns dancing in the flame duct." By the way, SpaceX won the right to take over the launch pad. And that isn't all the misfortune that Blue Origin has suffered. They also recently lost a contract with NASA to SpaceX to build the lunar lander that will deliver astronauts to the surface of the moon in 2024. Bezos was not happy about the decision and filed a protest, accusing NASA of moving the goalposts for contract bidders at the last moment. This was a huge blow for Blue Origin. Of course, Musk fired back at Bezos and his 50-page protest with a tweet that said, "Can't get it up to orbit, lol." That's Elon Musk for you. But we told you in the beginning that there's another billionaire that looks like he's about to beat both Musk and Bezos at their own game. Virgin Galactic and its founder Richard Branson have also been working for the last 20 years, getting the VSS Unity rocket plane riding to the limit of the Earth's atmosphere. He says that Elon Musk is fixated on Mars and it's his life mission, while he and Bezos want to use space to better the Earth. This rocket plane is really something else to see. It's carried in the middle by a big mothership jet named Eve. And when at the correct altitude, Spaceship 2 Unity is released, and its rocket pushes the craft to 3 times the speed of sound. It then makes a sharp climb upwards until it reaches the edge of space. In the spacecraft's test flight, it performed a slow backflip by rotating its wings. VSS Unity then returns from the edge of space and lands on a runway, much like the space shuttle. But even the VSS Unity had a problem, and a previous flight attempt was called off because of an electronic interference issue where the spacecraft's rocket shut off early before it glided safely back to Earth. However, Virgin Galactic says they got the problem fixed and have unveiled the Spaceship 3, and it looks incredibly awesome. Now, there are probably a lot of Elon Musk haters out there, but it looks like SpaceX is beating everyone in the space race. Think about it. SpaceX has built and designed the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy launch vehicles, but that's not all. The company also builds its own rocket engines, the Merlin 1 and Kestrel. Plus, they've been talking about building a new, much bigger, high-level engine, the Merlin 2. But it's always the goal of SpaceX to be able to reuse the first stage of a rocket, and in December 2015, SpaceX landed its Falcon 9 rocket for the first time. SpaceX also pulled off the first rocket landing at sea on a drone ship in April 2016. And in 2019, SpaceX wowed the world again with a triple booster landing and 2 of the boosters landing on the ground in perfect tandem, while the main core landed on a drone ship in the ocean. What about SpaceX getting people to the edge of space like Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic? Let's face it, the goals of SpaceX are different from the competitors. And the main focus is putting people on the surface of the Moon and Mars. And this is where the SpaceX Starship comes in. It's a fully reusable, 2-stage to-orbit, super heavy-lift launch vehicle that can take 100 people into space. The Starship has seen some real fast development since 2019, beginning with the Starhopper that was successful in launching and landing and looking real cool doing it. SpaceX then built Starship SN5. It looked like a giant grain silo, and it was surreal watching this thing take off, hover, and then land successfully. But not all SpaceX Starships have landed in one piece. Starship SN9 crashed on landing and exploded in a fireball. SN10 landed but exploded shortly after, and SN11 successfully soared to a 10-kilometer altitude but exploded shortly after. That's 3 Starship failures in a row. However, Elon Musk was quoted as saying, "We expect it to explode. It's weird if it doesn't explode, frankly." Now the US Federal Aviation Administration has stepped in, and they don't believe these failures are intended and are looking closer at SpaceX's Starship. So, what are the new plans for our billionaire spacemen? Bezos is set to go into space in his new Shepard vehicle on July 20th, 2021, with his brother Mark, and a very rich anonymous online bidder who put down $4.8 million to go for a ride. The capsule on the top can carry up to 6 people and reaches an altitude of more than 100 kilometers, called suborbital space. The flight lasts about 10 to 15 minutes, enough time for passengers to float in complete weightlessness. Let's see if it all plays out as planned, because we all know that anything can change at any moment. The question on everyone's mind is it risky to be sending these billionaires into space? The big news is that while we're making this video, Virgin Galactic got their first official OK from the Federal Aviation Administration to fly passengers to the edge of space. That's right, even you could grab a ticket on a rocket to the edge of space right now, if you have the money. And no word yet on how much the tickets will go for, but you can bet they'll be expensive. SpaceX is really busy trying to get their futuristic bullet-shaped Starship ready to take people to Mars. And the latest Starship SN-15 just performed a near-perfect soft landing, and it didn't explode. When it comes to human spaceflight, SpaceX is still at the top. On April the 23rd, 2021, SpaceX's Crew 2 mission sent 4 more astronauts to the International Space Station aboard the company's Crew Dragon spacecraft, making it the 3rd successful manned launch. Before, astronauts had to hitch a ride on Russian spacecraft. And while Branson and Bezos are both on a mission to convince and assure people that a rocket ride is fun and safe by going up first themselves, let's keep in mind that even spacecraft that have undergone years of testing can end up failing or crashing. Take the failure of the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1986, when it broke apart just 73 seconds into its flight, or the Shuttle Columbia when it disintegrated in Earth's atmosphere on February 1st, 2003. That said, if you want to see a video about the most devastating spacecraft failures, let us know in the comments. And speaking of NASA spacecraft, where do they sit in the space race? Because of all this competition, NASA looks like it's falling behind a little. However, they're still in the race with their huge rocket, the Space Launch System. It's the most powerful launch vehicle built since the 1960s. It stands 98 meters tall, has 4 engines that produce 8.8 million pounds of thrust. That insane amount of power can put 27 tons of cargo into space. That's 11 large sport utility vehicles. And yes, these are the same RS-25 engines that were used in the Space Shuttle program. And this is the rocket that NASA will use for their Artemis program. But is this rocket ready to do the job of sending astronauts to the moon? And is NASA falling behind in rocket technology? For now, the Space Launch System is still being assembled, and the Artemis project is still set to get us back to the moon by 2024. SpaceX is now helping out on the lunar lander, and Jeff Bezos is not happy about that. And while we're on the subject, we recently made a video about how China is trying to overtake NASA in space programs. However, it's already becoming more difficult for a state corporation to stay in this market, since they're responsible to taxpayers for their failures, unlike private companies. You can check out that here if you missed it. Private companies have endured hundreds of failures, rocket crashes, and huge financial losses. But now they've conquered space, and the future of space exploration looks bright.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Toasty Business. There's an old saying in poker, don't just play the cards, play the players. It's the same thing in markets. You can't just focus on the cards you're dealt with, such as the fundamentals of this stock or that stock. If you're having to focus on the other players who are playing the same cards, and that means understanding the behavior of a crowd of buyers and sellers in the stock market. That's exactly what has happened with Tesla. 8.76% stock over the past few months. That's a huge pot of money in the middle of the table in the form of an enormous market cap for Tesla as the stock keeps getting bid up, and none of it has anything to do with the fundamentals of the company. Today we're going to be talking about the truth behind Tesla stock. Make sure you stay until the end as you don't want to miss out on this information. What is Tesla at a glance? With a market capitalization of around $265 billion, Tesla is the world's largest automaker in terms of value, roughly the size of Toyota Motor Corp, Honda Motor Co, and General Motors Co combined. When it comes to growth prospects, Tesla has all of its older competitors beat. While all these companies have taken their cue from Tesla and begun to manufacture their own electronic and eco-friendly automobiles, Tesla continues to be the dominant name in this market. At the time of writing, Tesla trades up at around 300% from March's market sell-off. During Tesla's second quarter earnings call, the company announced that Austin, Texas would be the location of its next gigafactory in the US. The billion-dollar factory will be used to assemble the Cybertruck and Tesla Semi, as well as the Model 3 and Model Y for sales in the eastern half of North America. Texas Governor Greg Abbott welcomed the announcement on Twitter, calling the Gigafactory a cornerstone for next-generation innovation. Although disruptions on the production line at its Shanghai factory due to the pandemic seemed like they would derail Tesla's lofty goals for this year, the company emerged surprisingly unscathed in the first quarter and reported strong numbers in the second quarter. The company beat expectations with deliveries of 90,891 cars in the second quarter. Deliveries in the first half of 2020 increased by about 13% over the last year. Revenue of $6.04 billion outpaced expectations of $5.2 billion. It earned $104 million in net income, or 50 cents per share, compared with a loss of $408 million, $2.31 per share in the second quarter of last year. Perhaps most important to note, which Wall Street anticipated hotly, was this represented Tesla's fourth consecutive quarter of profitability, a milestone that could have serious implications for the stock going forward. Pros of buying Tesla stock. Retail investors love Tesla. The company is among the top 10 most popular holdings on commission-free trading app Robinhood, according to the platform's website. More than 530 users own the stock, placing TSLA just behind other big-name tech companies Apple and Microsoft. It's hard to not get excited about a company with visionary CEO Elon Musk at the helm. In addition to Tesla, Musk also owns SpaceX, which makes rockets and other rocket engines. And his goal is to reduce the cost of spaceflight and send humans to Mars. He wowed the public and investors alike in early 2018 by strapping a red Tesla Roadster to the front of a SpaceX rocket and launching both into space, sending photos back to Earth of an astronaut seated behind the wheel as the sports car floated among the stars. The first quarter of 2020 was also the first full quarter with the company's new Shanghai factory up and running, and the gross margin from its Shanghai facility is already approaching the level of its US-made Model 3. As of July, the Model 3 has become the best-selling electric vehicle in China. Faster production of its cars, higher profitability, a foothold in China, possible inclusion in the S&P, and fancy new gigafactory, and the largest electric vehicle market in the world are a winning combination for Tesla and its long-term investors. Cons of buying Tesla stock. It has been called the most controversial stock on Wall Street. In spite of its recent successes, many analysts remain trepidatious about Tesla moving forward. The consensus on Wall Street is that the stock remains overvalued in its current price. Eric Gordon, professor at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan, summarizes some of the issues at Tesla. Promised deadlines are missed, manufacturing problems persist, it's a high-risk stock, and given the stock price, it's not clear how high the reward can be. Though Musk often creates excitement around his company, he can just as often create controversy. He's been known to call analyst questions boneheaded during earnings calls, and has had problems with the US Securities and Trade Commission, tweeted that he wanted to take Tesla private, and smoked marijuana on a popular podcast. Most recently, he has gained the spotlight once more for railing against pandemic-inspired lockdowns. While Musk's personality naturally draws attention, sometimes it can overshadow the success of his company. Musk single-handedly knocked billions off of Tesla's market value by tweeting, "Tesla's stock price is too high in my opinion." Whatever the case, the CEO shared his candid thoughts with more than 36 million followers and caused the stock price to tank. As for the vehicles themselves, Tesla noted that the average selling price for its cars dropped further in the first quarter of 2020 as demand shifted in favor of its more affordable Model 3 and Model Y vehicles. This isn't a problem as long as Tesla can get its production facilities up to speed, on time, and continue to crank out enough Model 3 and Y vehicles to keep profitability high. And a history of delivery delays casts some doubt on if the company can get it done. Predicting the future stock price. Goldman Sachs recently published a research report that seemed to have pushed Tesla shares even higher. The Tesla app downloads have been going up, which may be due to more people buying Tesla vehicles lately. The Tesla app is nearly a requirement with Tesla vehicles because it allows you to do things such as start a vehicle and access additional features. This data could mean Tesla beats third quarter delivery estimates of 145 units. App downloads are a new bit of data to track, and it hasn't been used very much to predict stock prices in the past. Goldman analyst Mark Delaney wrote, Tesla global weekly app downloads have recently been tracking up on a year-over-year basis, with the most recent full week of global data at up about 20%. Tesla app downloads are primarily concentrated in the United States and China, with the year-over-year growth being driven by China. China is an important growth market for Tesla. It's the largest new car market in the world, as well as the largest market for electric vehicles. We can expect this market to help add to Tesla's already massive amount of capital. The bottom line: should you buy Tesla stock? What investors fail to realize is that Tesla is not just an electric vehicle company. Tesla is positioning itself to be a transportation and power conglomerate. Over the next 10 years, there is a good chance that Tesla will continue and extend its electric vehicle lead over traditional vehicle manufacturers. It was able to lower production costs, build an autonomous global transportation network, become a power conglomerate, create new efficient modes of transportation, and it might even turn into the next Amazon for cars. Just in case Tesla does reach all these goals, I sure don't want to miss out. It's been a roller coaster of a stock, but in late 2019, the ride got a lot more comfortable for investors. Mark began the company's second quarter conference call by saying, I've never been more optimistic or excited about the future of Tesla. As the company celebrates a new milestone in profitability and shares hit new highs, the ride over the near term will likely continue uphill. The company has opened a manufacturing facility in China, and another will open in Germany by 2021, taking some of the burdens off its Vermont facility, as will the new Gigafactory in Texas. The electric vehicle maker has made production more streamlined, leading to an improved bottom line, while revenue continues to grow, and there are no signs of a slowdown anytime soon, and its cheaper Model 3 and Model Y vehicles gain traction, and its Cybertruck and semis await somewhere down the road. If TSLA can keep up, meet its delivery goals, and perhaps rein in its CEO, the company will continue to enjoy success in the second half of 2020. If history is any guide, betting against Elon Musk tends to be a bad call. But the risk remains, and investors who are interested in buying TSLA shares should be adding them to a well-diversified portfolio. Tesla is already the largest car company in the world in terms of market cap. If things continue to go Tesla's way, that's not likely to change anytime soon. Thanks for watching. While you're here, go ahead and click on one of these two videos on your screen. See you there.